Hello and welcome everyone to the rundown courtesy of AGL. Of course, for all your energy needs, go to agl.com.au. Stay with us. I've got a special offer for Eagles fans a little later, which involves the team store. 250 gamer, Norm Smith medalist, and also, of course, Premiership player Andrew Embley. Welcome to you.
Good on you, Tim. Good to see a massive turnout here. Does anyone work in WA anymore? Friday afternoon. How many people are here?
Yeah, fantastic.
Someone would have thought West Coast won the Premiership last year, Tim.
They've come out of the woodwork. Not Ryan Daniels from 7 News, otherwise known as Footy Rhino, and the man who appears on more podcasts in Perth than anyone else I know. Are you excited for RAC Derby 49?
I'm very excited. I think it's about time that we had a derby that was close and that was fought fiercely, and hopefully that's what this one is.
Yeah, I don't know how close it's going to be brutally honest with you, but anyway, we'll work through that. Let's talk about the situation and the state of play for both clubs. Let's talk to you, Ron, in regards to where Fremantle's at. They do sit above West Coast on the ladder. They've had 2 wins, albeit unimpressive last week.
Yeah, look, I think that they'd probably be pretty happy to be 2-1. But for me, I don't think they've quite figured out the chemistry experiment that's going on in that forward line. Rory Lobb is now rucking. Sean Darcy's not in the team. Jesse Hogan, how does he fit in? He's spending a lot of time in the middle. And Tabner and McCarthy have probably played almost above the level that the Dockers would have thought that they probably could have. This is the peak of those 2 guys. So trying to fit all that in, I'm not sure they've quite figured it out. And this is really their first serious test. They had a pretty soft draw to start. So while they'd be happy with where they're at, I don't think they'd be completely convinced about what they actually have yet.
3 games at the start of the season for Fremantle that we thought were really winnable. 2 and 3, they'll take that. But I think we're going to find out a little bit more about Fremantle tomorrow night, and then after that, a trip to GWS. I think will give us a better indication to see where the Dockers are at.
And where are the Dockers without Nat Fyfe? Both of you, I mean, some would say they probably couldn't have won the game with Nat Fyfe, but the fact that he's not there, it's a massive hole.
Oh, I mean, he's one of the 3 or 4 best players in the entire competition. His clearance work alone. And the matchups we've seen in recent derbies is him and Elliot Yeo. So the question I have now is, what happens with Elliot Yeo? I mean, this guy, he could end up winning the medal because he's not running around with Fyfe, he's going to be off the leash. So that's going to be an interesting thing. And also, how do you replace a guy like Nat Fyfe? One thing I'd like to see them try, because the way I see it is they're going in as massive underdogs. Let's see if Jesse Hogan can potentially play some of that role. He's a big body player. He's no Nat Fyfe.
No, he has to play inside forward 50. Jesse Hogan, for mine, he has been drafted as a forward, and I think he needs to play inside that 50. They need to rely on other players to get the ball to. I understand at times you don't get that supply, but Jesse Hogan plays his best forward deep inside forward 50. When he gets up the ground, for mine, he's not as important.
But then Tabner, that impacts him. It impacts Cam McCarthy. He was arguably playing the best footy he's played in 3 years. So putting Hogan up there, you're then sacrificing those 2 blokes who have probably been their 2 best forwards to start the season.
And Michael Walters is another one who's had to go up the ground. Now, I think Michael Walters plays his best football inside forward 50, but playing up the ground last week, he was Fremantle's best player. So, again, this is the reason why, with no Nat Fyfe, there's an injury concern around Brad Hill at the moment. If Brad Hill's out of the team, then you're right, Hogan might have to play through the midfield, and Michael Walters will certainly spend some more time there too.
We're here for AGL. For all your energy needs, go to agl.com.au. Okay, we could talk about the game verbatim for all night till tomorrow night, till bounce. But let's talk about the winning sequence. West Coast have had 7. The record in these derbies is 9, and that's when Fremantle came into the competition. When do we see Fremantle winning a derby? How long can this sequence go for, Ryan?
He could easily hit double digits. I don't see them winning one of the 2 derbies this year, and I don't see much changing in the next 12 months either. It's not inconceivable that they could play a fantastic game of footy. They get West Coast down at one of these points and they beat them. But to me, it's probably going to hit double digits. I could see them winning the next 3 or 4 at least.
The gap between these 2 teams at the moment have probably been the biggest it's been for some time now, and that's no disrespect to Fremantle, but we're looking at the West Coast Eagles at the moment. We know that they are the premiers. Their form early this year suggests to me that they are probably going to be the team to beat again. They believe now they can beat any team anywhere. They've got a huge psychological advantage over Fremantle at the moment, indicated by the fact that they've won their past 7 games. So there's no one that fears. West Coast don't fear anyone at the moment, and you expect that West Coast will be too strong tomorrow night.
To me, that's a problem. For the Western Derby to be what it needs to be, And
The
it should
RAC Derby.
be the RAC Derby to be what it needs to be.
Derby.
We need the Fremantle Dockers to actually show up, show some fight, win one of these RAC Derbies in the next couple, and just get everybody on edge. That's what was so great about Derbies 10 years ago.
But that's what you want, and that's what the fans want. Adam Simpson and Shannon Hearn couldn't give a rat's toss bag, mate, whether Fremantle show up or not. They just want to win and win by a lot, and that's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen later in the year. The last time Fremantle won a derby, the only 3 survivors that are playing tomorrow night, Taberner, Walters, Mundy. They've lost their last 7. There's been a lot of cattle gone from that time. And so they don't have... Ed Langdon, who's playing in his 50th game, hasn't played in a winning derby yet. He's playing in his 6th derby tomorrow night.
Wow.
All righty. I'll raise this question with you. Which West Coast Eagles player would you hate to leave West Coast and the nest and join Fremantle? What's the one player you'd hate to lose?
I'd say Willie Rioli. There's a few players in the competition in recent times who I believe don't need a whole lot of possessions to have an impact on the game. And Willie's cousin Cyril is someone that comes to mind, and Nick Nat I reckon is the other. But Willie Rioli, his improvement over the last few years is getting better and better. I think his awareness to be able to grab the football at times or to be able to tap it onto a teammate, he, in my opinion, has got massive, massive upside. I'm not sure if many people watched the JLT game, in the second JLT game, but his third quarter against Fremantle had 10, 11 touches, kicked a couple of goals, was unbelievable. And I remember at the end of that game thinking he could be the most important small forward in the competition in years to come. So if he can get his body right, which obviously West Coast are really keen for him to get right now, then I think Willie Rioli, for mine, could be one of those really important players that we look forward to seeing for a long time.
When I thought about this question, I was thinking Oscar Allen. Obviously, the club signed him up for an extension, which is absolutely brilliant. But I think Oscar Allen's got upside back and forward. But Fremantle probably don't need backs. So that's where I think Tom Barras is safe, because I think he would be the one that you wouldn't want to leave. I'm throwing one complete left field, and he's only played a handful of games. But Fremantle needs speed, and they need goal-kicking midfield speed, and Jack Petrocelli is the player that I think Fremantle would want, because that's what they lack. And I think West Coast, I think Petrocelli, we've seen in a couple of games, has completely changed the way West Coast can run that ball through the midfield. They get it off half-back through Lewis Jetta, but they get it from wing forward with Jack Petrocelli.
I'm not sure you guys actually looked at the question that was asked. Who would they hate to lose? The number one guy, he's out of contract, right? It's not Yo, it's not Gov, they're signed up. Andrew Gaff is signed up. Hearn and Kennedy, they're both playing on next year and they're signed up, and that'll probably be it. The guy who's out of contract, who there is some possibility, it's not going to happen, but there is a possibility they could steal Nick Natanui, the most marketable player the West Coast Eagles have maybe ever had, rivaling Ben Cousins. That's the player the West Coast Eagles would most hate to see in a Fremantle jumper. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the question was, who would be the player they would most hate to see wearing purple? It's Nick Nat.
I reckon Nick Nat's got more chance going back to Swan Districts Football Club than what he is going back to Fremantle Dockers. I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, that is not happening.
Yeah, and he certainly wouldn't be going back for the money, because there's no need for that. All righty, let's have a look then at the question that is going to rile a few people with the following answers, and I reckon we await your answer. If the careers of Josh Kennedy was to stop tomorrow, who has had the better career? Josh Kennedy or Fremantle legend Matthew Pavlich?
That's a very difficult one. Hard to compare both players because they're absolute champions of the game. The one thing I will say about Matthew Pavlich is that I don't think anyone will ever achieve what he's been able to achieve in regards to winning an All-Australian in 3 different positions, as a forward and as a back and as a midfield. No one will ever do that again. He's probably the best player that I played against through my time, and 700 goals is going to be very, very hard to beat. What I do love about Josh Kennedy, if I was going to compare him as forwards, as pure forwards, I reckon JK may, for mine, just be a little bit better as a forward. Great contested mark overhead. From memory, he's kicked 80-plus goals at least twice in his career, where Pavlich, I think his biggest haul was 70 goals. But, again, it's a very, very tough one. As a forward, maybe JK. Overall, I think maybe Matthew Pavlich. Did I answer that question all right?
No, you sat on the fence, but that's okay. You want to upset the Matthew Pavlich camp, just in case you run into him at the game.
The question was, who's the best forward? That's Josh Kennedy. It's simple. He's been the best forward in the game for the last 5 years and one of the best for the last 10 years. Pav, as you mentioned, spent some time in the middle, a lot of centre-half forward time, very small part of his career down back. That All-Australian defensive post was a little bit blurred. For me, Pav did have the better career, and that's sheer longevity, because you're saying if Kennedy ended tomorrow, he's 130 games short, he's a couple of hundred goals short, all the statistics would lean towards Pav. But if I'm picking one forward for a 10-year stretch, it's Josh Kennedy. And to me, it's not actually that close. I think Pav had a fantastic career.
What?
I don't think it's that close. He didn't win a flag. And you can say he didn't have great teammates, but there were times when Matthew Pavlich had great teammates. He played in the grand final. He played in another prelim final.
You're telling me
Josh Kennedy.
that Josh Kennedy is poles apart the better
forward.
I mean, forget about Pav going in midfield. He did it half a dozen times when they're 25 goals down. I'm talking about, you're telling us on the rundown, thanks to AGL.
An RAC Derby.
You're telling me that Josh Kennedy is poles apart the better player between the two?
Yes, 100%. And here's the other part of Pavlich as a forward that was always the knock on him. He couldn't kick. How many times?
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Would you be saying the same answer if this was a Fremantle Derby function?
Absolutely not. I would stand and say that Kennedy was better, but maybe not poles apart.
You are dreaming. Mate, what's that, 8 times All-Australian or 6 times All-Australian, 8 times club champion, leading goal kicker, 700 goals,
yes.
Brownlow votes coming out of his backside.
All right, let me ask you this question. Your life is on the line. It's 50 out, straight in front. Who's kicking the ball for you? Is it
Josh Kennedy's a better kick. Doesn't make him a better player. There's a few more elements to that. Chris Mainwaring, bless his cotton socks, was an absolutely amazing player. Worst kick ever to pull a boot on.
So it's Matthew Pavlich for you?
Pavlich is a better player than Josh Kennedy.
And
absolutely.
a better forward?
I'll take a break on that.
Just move over on the fence because make some room.
All righty, let's talk about the one derby, and you played in how many?
A few.
You won less than you won, didn't you?
Probably.
Yeah. All righty. Then you lost. Which derby? On rewind. Which one would you like to sit down and watch?
Okay. Not many. I don't really watch too many games I used to play in. But the one
just
game,
the 2006 grand final.
Yeah, besides
on
that one was on repeat a little bit. The game that sticks out for mine was the so-called demolition derby back in 2000. Now, I played in that game as an 18-year-old. West Coast didn't win the game, so it wasn't a great finish, but it was probably the one game, I've never played in a game since, where the game was almost out of control. And we're never going to see a game of football like that ever again. I'll tell you a quick little story about that game too, though. So I was actually one of 16 people that was either fined or suspended in that game. So I got fined $2,000 for a melee. Now, I was an 18-year-old. 2 weeks after, I was actually going to Bali on a football trip, and I was relying on that $2,000. So I was the only person that went to the tribunal, true story, and fought my charge. I showed vision of me getting beaten up by a couple of Fremantle players on the ground, and I said to Mr. Tribunal, I said, how can that be a melee? So they obviously felt sorry for me. I got my $2,000 back, and guess where I went 2 weeks later?
Now,
Bali.
Can I ask you, now that the tribunals can't get their money back, did you actually land any punches?
No. I was the one getting beaten up. No, I was too young to take on some of those more mature Fremantle players in that particular game.
The answer's the same for me, for many, many reasons. The young Gardy versus young Pav, who's not quite as good as Josh Kennedy in the goal square, doing that, the worst jumper punch in history. Dale Kickett, obviously, not just for what he did and for the legacy that it's left, but the fact that, as you said, once that happened, anything was possible. You sat on the edge of your seat the rest of that game, the entire time. You didn't know what was going to come. Clive Waterhouse kicked 7 goals and got the 3 Brownlow votes, match-winning performance, and in the last quarter there were 9 goals. That game had literally everything. It's one of the games where you remember where you were when it was happening, and you can exactly remember the spot.
Round 16, 1999, Fremantle win the Derby by 47 points. The next year, West Coast win the first Derby of the year in 2000 by 117 points. 164-point turnaround. Scotty Cummings kicks 10. That is the Derby of in regards to turnaround of personnel, turnaround of result, turnaround of fortunes, it's the 2000 Derby, the first one of 2000 I could watch time and time again.
Well, that 1999 grand final was the first time, or 1999 game was the first time the Fremantle actually won a Derby. So I think they actually might have been drunk up until that next game that they played and lost by 100 points.
Alrighty, let's turn our attention to the game. Everyone has an opinion. Let's see the headline we will see in Sunday's paper. Who wins? And the Glendinning Allen Medal. The RAC Derby winner, first up, winner, Glendinning Allen Medal, and the headline we will see front page Sunday.
West Coast win by 6 goals. The medal will go to Dom Sheed. I don't think there's a player in the competition at the moment that has got more confidence than Dom Sheed. When you bat so deep through the midfield, I think he's the player for mine that will get off the chain. I don't think Fremantle can afford to put too much time into him when you've got Yowie and Gaff and Luke Shuey. So I think he'll continue his good form and win the medal. And the big headline for mine will be Liam Ryan takes mark of the year.
Good one.
Okay?
That's a good one. Question without notice.
It's a pretty boring headline. Liam Ryan takes mark of the year. It's going to be.
Well, you guys can write it up any way you want. I think Liam Ryan's going to take the mark of the year.
Ryan.
The Eagles are going to steamroll Fremantle tomorrow night. At the moment, the Eagles are robots with flair. They are just a professional unit. They will not let this one slip. They're going to win by at least 6 goals, probably closer to 9 or 10 goals. Luke Shuey is collecting medals and he's flying right now. He's my choice for the medal. And no Fife, no Dockers.
Whoa, the old no Fife, no Dockers headline. Looking forward to that one.
The struggle without him.
For what it's worth, and I hate tipping. Footy tipping competitions drive me mad. But I'll go West Coast by 85 points. Tom Barras.
Oh, good player.
To win the Glendinning Allen Medal.
Yeah, he's my tip to win West Coast best and fairest this year, Tim.
Yes, it is. But at the same time as him being best on ground, I'll go with Barras gets cold as ball doesn't get down his end of the ground. Big headline.
Hard to win the medal when you don't touch the ball.
That's exactly right, but he won't have made a mistake. Yeah. Hey, fantastic stuff. We're looking forward to it, the RAC Derby, and it kicks off at 6:10. Ryan Daniels from 7 News, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the game, Whack.
Good on you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
fantastic. Good on you, mate. And that has been the rundown for AGL. And don't forget, should I say, AGL has a great season launch offer for all Eagles fans. So all Eagles fans here or watching online here, you get 41% off. That's right, 41% off gas, plus all new customers who sign up to the AGL Eagles plan also get $75 voucher to spend in the Eagles team store. And there's some great stuff in the team store. All you have to do is go to agl.com.au/Eagles for more information. That's been the rundown. Derby tomorrow night, the RAC Derby, 6:10 at Optus Stadium. Thanks for watching the rundown. Till next week, it's goodbye.